conversation about the potential of this happening. And I said, why not? Let's give this a shot. I think podcasts are like all the rave. Yeah. And to be honest, it's really, I always love being able to connect faces to names. So the hope that through this podcast is that you connect to our editors, to our team, to our special guest. We have the fabulous D'Andra Simmons with us today, who's going to be dishing real candidly. And it's just a fun way to get to know not just the team, but also our take on current events and day-to-day topics that we see on the news, but we're going to give it our Bella spin.
I think that's what we're all starving for, is everyone's such a fan of Bella, celebrity or not, and people want to know what the people on the staff think. It's not only about anymore like experts, it's like we're the experts, and we're talking real life, and I'm excited. So thank you.
And our team is extremely opinionated. So
hopefully we don't get into a Real Housewives debate.
As you should be in a magazine. You have to have an opinion.
Exactly. Well, and one of the things that I always encourage the team and anyone, is to have your say. Be yourself, have your say, speak up, because at the end of the day, that is not just you fulfilling your own, potential, but you can also set an example to others who, may be looking to either get into this industry, be in this career, which is not easy. And we could, talk until we turn blue about how difficult it really is to break into the media industry and how things have been changing and shifting, from print to digital and whatnot. Like, I could talk for days about that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I think, thank you for the beautiful compliment that everybody loves Bella. And I think that from day one, Bella has always been a resource for women and men, because we do have a few men who do flip through our pages, to find a better way to live life, to utilize it as a point of direction, right? A resource to, what's hot in fashion, what's hot in beauty, in travel, in food, but also very honest and very well researched also, because all of our contributors are experts in their fields, are vetted, and they know what they're talking about. So let's jump right in, Chanel.
Okay, so the first topic we have that I love, and I know all you ladies are going to love, is how to deal with an ex. And when an ex-love of yours that you love that you're not over yet, and he replaces you with another girl in 2 months. And I say this, I'm referencing the infamous Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber love triangle that's been going on for years and probably will still be current as we go on into 2020.
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting that whether they're celebrities or not, we all have feelings. So I know if I were Selena Gomez, I think what she did was amazing to put in her music and have her career push, but at the same time, it must be difficult to see someone you love so much move on from you and replace you with someone else that you might think is better. So I was thinking, what do you all as women, and powerful women, and career women driven, what do you guys think about that?
I think as an artist, as Selena's an artist, you're challenged and empowered to talk about your life experiences, especially in your music, of course, reality TV. I think your ex is over here with a jackhammer because he's mad because you're talking about it.
That is true. For the record, we're in the middle of Times Square. So, what you hear,
he's heard that we're talking about costumes like that.
So what you hear is like live action.
Which is great because it's all in real time.
Yeah, I think I have to tell my story on reality TV as it's happening, and it always seems like when the cameras turn on is the worst thing in my life is happening. I'm like, oh my God, not now, Yeah. But then as an artist, if you share your experiences, your tragedies, your triumphs, your victories, everything that makes and shapes you as an artist, as a person, and other people can say, they can relate to that, or they can say, oh, look at her, look how she's moved on. I certainly hope Selena finds a fabulous, person to be in her life. But talking about it, I don't find any shame in that at all. I think it's very cathartic.
Do you feel, Jen, it's wrong for someone like Justin Bieber or an ex to replace you that fast? Does it matter? Is it about the timing? Is it what is it about?
I think it's more not even on him. I mean, that's amazing that she has this outlet and she can make music, and if that's therapeutic for her, fantastic. But then I also think that opens you up a little bit to almost being like victimized. Like, I'm sad, everyone let me tell you my story. And I've found personally that like when dealing with an ex, and I was guilty of it in the past too, you want to be sad, and you want to tell everyone, and you want to talk, but then like, are you really only just hurting yourself? Whereas if you're, you know what, I'm going to pick my head up, I'm going to move on, I'm not going to talk about it, I'm doing great. I feel like that sometimes, at least me, makes me feel better.
Right.
I almost feel like we're still talking about how she's hurt over this. I feel like it's been a little while, like, do you, girl?
It.
Yeah, like,
yeah, what are your tips too?
I mean,
maybe win an ex back too. Sorry on that point.
No. I mean, I've been in a situation where I remember back in the day, like I was friends with this person, and we felt like there was a connection, but he never really asked me out, and I never really, and I was like kind of like waiting for him to ask me out to like formal, like, are we doing this or is this happening? And then maybe like 2-3 weeks later, he had a girlfriend, and I was heartbroken. I was devastated because I was like, but I thought we had like something going on here. And I literally remember showing up to like one of his, he had done, because we used to work together, and we went to his apartment. He was having like a party and everyone was there, and I remember just kind of out of hurt, just said to him, but I really thought like, I was like, no, my actual words were like, yeah, and then all of a sudden, you just show up with a girlfriend, like what's that about? And I remember catching myself in that moment and saying, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, whether we gave each other mixed signals or not, he probably was not that into me. And, you know, I had to kind of quickly, like, pick up my ego and my hurt and, like, and see ya. And I left that party. And then having learned from that situation that I feel like everybody has the freedom to move on and do what's best for them. I really, like, I love Selena Gomez. I think that but what I know of her, we're not best friends. You know, she's a celebrity. What I know of her from the media and the news. But I think that we need to, you know, mend ourselves, get together with some girlfriends, probably go out, have some fun, and then pick up the, you know, and keep moving on. Because at the end of the day, we all have the right to make ourselves, you know, we have the right to happiness. And if that's where he's at, you know, she had a tumultuous personal, you know, ups and downs in her own life with her health issues and whatnot also. So maybe that's just not something that he wanted to deal with. And at the end of the day, she's better off, you know, if she was ill and he didn't want to deal with that. I don't think they were either. You know, being in this industry where you're so bombarded with so many distractions, it's hard to be in a committed relationship, I can imagine. Not that I'm not, because I am. No, but
you're married, right? Because you have it all.
I'm married. I'm actually my 20th. On the 20th, I celebrate my 13th, my 13th year anniversary. Happily married, thank you. But the truth is, you know, some people just don't know how to be in a committed relationship either, and I know that he had those issues as well. So I personally feel that she's better off without him.
Right.
I think that she could get somebody so much better, and she's expressing her hurt. And that's okay, and you know, because she has the right to do that too. If that's her outlet for, I mean, look at Beyonce. Beyonce created an entire marketing monster out of her own personal situation, and not only are they better off in their marriage, but she made an amazing album out of it. Like, I want some of that, you know?
Just to sound cool for a second, I have met Selena Gomez and interviewed her, and she's one of the sweetest humans I have ever met. And she's beautiful, and I'm like, girl, just like, you could get anybody.
Like, what I love about her too is she lets us remember that, like, she's the girl next door, and I know she's famous, and she talks about her health issues. She's open about, you know, her relationships. It's almost more relatable. It makes me love her even more because I'm like, I see myself in her.
And talking about this too, for some reason, like what's coming up for me is, you know, that, because I heard you say it, when you're on camera, you make some of the most difficult moments in your personal life are going on. You know, to be in this industry and to have to be fully on all the time is
hard.
struggle.
Very stressful.
And something that I personally, because I've been very vocal, you know, I've been in my own business before I took on Bella. I've been very vocal about the fact that I suffered from postpartum depression, and I have days where I don't want to get out of bed. And showering is like, woo! I know, and I showered. Like, I made it.
You're like, I made it to the shower.
And I made it. But to be fully on all the time is very hard. I mean, we all have bad days. We have days where we really don't want to get out of bed. We don't want to even shower. We don't want to brush our teeth, whatever the case may be. But I think that when you're in in this type of industry, I think that, and I see a lot of that happening more so now, that people are being more open and more honest and unfiltered with how they look, how they are, because we're doing a disservice to people when we're literally showing up, perfectly all the time. That isn't life. That isn't real. And I've made it a point to continue to just, as hard as I possibly can, to continue to be myself. And I feel the pressure. I feel the heat to lose another 10 pounds or whatever. And I have to catch myself and remind myself, like, no, I'm not going to fall into that trap. If anything, I always say to people, I have a responsibility through this outlet. I have nieces, and I want them to pick up this magazine and look to anything that they see in Bella and say, okay, I can do that. That's something that I can accomplish because it's actually relatable, as opposed to, us setting this bar way up here, which, other outlets do, and that's fine. But the reality that's not real. That isn't real.
On that note, do you feel, and you guys can take turns, do you feel with social media and stuff, like it's a disservice or a service to put everything out there? So for example, a lot of my friends tell me, because I have suffered from mental health issues, and I want everyone to feel less alone with this, that it's okay even if you're a woman in the arts or in the industry. When is it too much to share? Or, is there ever a boundary? Is there ever a limit? Do you feel like you should share it all? What do you think?
I don't share it all. I share whatever I'm comfortable with, whenever I want to empower other people. If I'm going through something and I feel like how I went through it and the outcome of it is going to help somebody, then yeah, I'm going to share that.
Right, but if you feel like it's not something, like if you feel like you're going through it but it's a little bit negative for someone else to see it, it might not be.
I might not share it as much. Maybe I'll just go into a little bit of it. But I don't know, because I don't want to bring anybody down either. So I would try to figure out a way to share it and put some positive into it,
right,
in some way.
Piggybacking on what you said before, when you share, a situation or something that may be happening with you, victimization to me is something that I will not be a victim of victimization. Like, I will never make myself a victim in any situation, because I think that that's disempowering, period, of yourself and of others. And I think that, again, going back to the images and the perceptions that people may have of us on one side, I always tell people, I've had the fortune of people approaching me in events, and they'll say, oh my God, you're exactly as you are on social media.
Yeah.
And I find it to be one of the biggest compliments. I'm like, really? Okay, that's awesome. It just means that I'm being honest. I'm being honest with myself. I'm being honest to other people. I do think that sharing, you don't have to go into the nitty gritty of a lot of the situations that you may be going through, but I think that what that does is that it humanizes you. It just makes you human. It makes you relatable. And that's, I think, where a lot of people in the media are disconnected from themselves and what they could do for other people, is because they're trying to portray this persona of perfection. And that, and I know, and I'm not going to get into politics, but President Obama actually in his summit called it the call-out culture. Like, we're so quick to call other people out on their mistakes, and that's the cool thing on social media, right? Like, to put out, oh, you did this. I honestly don't understand how people have the time to go and criticize people on. I don't understand. I don't get it. And then that turns into cyberbullying, and that turns into a whole nother monster that I don't even understand. Like, if you have that kind of time on your hands to go and make a comment on a video or on a picture about somebody's appearance, about somebody's life, guess what, buddy? You have serious issues, because that. What is that about? I always ask myself that. I always wonder what drives a person to get to that point, because you're a keyboard. They call them keyboard warriors, right? What is that? What are you doing with your computer? It doesn't go beyond that. I don't get it.
And on that note, not to get too deep, and D'Andra, I'll ask you your opinion, because you were talking about tips on how you handle it. Gun violence, all this violence in schools, I think it starts and stems from us not having this conversation and enabling these cyberbullying trolls and letting them get away with it and not talking too much about it. Because if you think about it, a lot of these shootings and all this stuff that we're trying to prevent and we're trying to go against, it stems from not talking to the person who's doing the shooting. That person is feeling bullied somehow, and they're not getting the right help, or they don't feel comfortable coming to a platform like this because they don't feel there's enough women or men out there talking about it. So how do you deal with someone who has such trauma in their life that, I mean, we're not therapists, so like, how do you deal with that? Do you respond to their comments? Do you ignore their comments? What have you
It
done?
just depends. I've had kind of a rocky 2 years on Housewives, I'll say it like that. And the last year was very difficult for me, and I would respond to some of the negativity and the trolls and people saying horrible things. And then this year I just took a different approach. I wasn't gonna respond. Of course, you trip yourself up every once in a while and say something, but in general I don't. And then you see the people that they finally go away, and then there's other people I work with that put everything out there and all this negativity and all this very personal information, which I think it's fine to share at one time, and then of course we may have to share something that we don't want to talk about because someone else talks about it for us.
Correct.
And then it's your choice. That happened to me. It's your choice to say, yes, this happened, let's move on,
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just an open book with everything, except for I don't share everything because I'm not going to share all the personal details of my marriage. It's intimate
course
with
not.
my
Yeah,
husband.
no, for sure.
Or, you know, I mean, I'll share as much as I feel comfortable sharing, but you have to have a little bit of something that's your own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your life, that's your own, that's your
100%.
personal part of you with your husband, your mom, your family. But with the bullying people, I just really have stopped. I block them, I mute, I delete them, I'm tired of it, I don't need to look at that stuff all day long.
Right.
And I did tell you, I have an adopted son who does look on some of my social media for me and takes that stuff away so I don't get hurt. He'll do it as best as he can, he's in college.
Yeah.
But it's just not, it doesn't help me because then I worry about this person thinking, you know, oh, well, I got a lot of problems after my mother and I had the conversation about the money that was given to me for the trust that actually was going to the business and not even to my income. Well, if you can't live on that, people didn't understand what I was talking about. I was talking about a business issue. And I did start answering some of those people. And then I just thought, you know, it doesn't matter what I say, they're not going to understand. Hopefully they'll watch Reunion and I'll get to talk about it again. I talked about it, Watch What Happens Live, and I say, go watch What Happens Live. See what I said.
But it's also like
on
this culture, like, people think you're a public figure and you should be kind of stripped down and talk. It's like they think you're obligated to talk about everything, or right? Or assume.
And to a certain
or
extent,
argue about everything.
Or argue
and
about
to
it.
a certain extent, I think that people, because you're so public, people feel like they own you to it,
They
right?
do.
What's that about though?
You
And-
put yourself on reality TV, so therefore I have the right to
I don't agree with that.
persecute you
Right.
all day long
Yeah.
at night
And
on
I
social
don't,
media.
yeah, I
I
don't agree with that.
I do agree that if you're a public figure and that if you're, I mean, you're public and you've been made famous because of people like us, you know, like
Right.
they have. I'm being honest,
Yeah.
you know, and I've dealt with in this tenure, you know, in this time in this industry, especially working in this, you know, in media and with Bella, where we've had people be like, no, we're not taking the picture, and I'm like, but this is what you're here for, like, and that's what you were contracted to do, or you were
Right.
like, so for people to get that kind of like obnoxious, because that there's no other word for it other than, but that's what you're here to do, take the picture and let's keep it moving, right? But I do have an issue with people avidly like going after you because they feel like through your channels or social media or the show that you're on, like they know you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. We aren't friends. It's like when we were talking about Selena Gomez before. We can make assumptions of what we see, but I don't have a personal relationship with her. I don't have a personal. We don't know the details of what's really happening there, so we really can't make assumptions or have opinions, you know. And that's the worst thing that you can possibly do, I think.
I always say, like, because I had one season, as everyone knows, on a reality show, and I always said, everyone knows only probably 10 to 20% of you. They don't know 100% of you. We're all multifaceted. We're human beings. We have different personalities. It's hard to say, I know that person, and I know she's this and she's that because of things that we're putting out there. What can we do as a society, as women especially, to empower each other to not have this culture anymore?
I think if we could just put more positive things out there constantly, I try to do that and not react to the people that are putting all the negative and judgmental, persecutorial things out there, because that doesn't serve anybody's purpose, doesn't help lift anyone up, doesn't help you. You feel down on yourself. I mean, just like you said, I've had those days where I didn't want to take the shower, and I didn't want to get out of bed because I didn't even want to open my social media because I knew it was going to ruin my day, and I was going to cry and be in a puddle of tears. We all have. People don't realize we're sensitive human beings.
Yeah.
I have feelings. When you say something hateful to me, it affects me. It hurts my feelings, and then I think about it over and over again. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? And I don't even know this person. It's just, I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, it's just. I mean, that's
Because
what.
I think that if you are responsible persona, you do take care in what is out there, and you try to make amends, and you try to fix it with whatever what is within your reach. But it's impossible to reach the hundreds of thousands of people that are, exposed to either a character on TV and people, like, let's get it together. Characters on TV are not real. Like,
Right.
like they're not real. Like, they're characters
Like when
on TV.
Like what I loved about you and Jen. They are
I'm like, do you? Because I'll read comments like threads, and I'm like, is this person really think that this is not real? Like, this is a show. It's TV. It's fake. Like, I don't understand.
For entertainment.
Yeah. So, number one,
They do.
taking that into account. And at the end of the day, if you don't have a personal connection to them, just come on.
Move on.
Let's move
Grow
on.
up, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's the part.
get it together and keep it moving and be an adult. I'm a fan of difficult conversations.
I know, but you're good at it too. It's
Well,
like
I
hard.
think because I was in therapy for so long in my life, I'm a big fan of therapy. I think that therapy is a lifesaver. But I think that when you have the I don't want to even say courage, when you have just the sense to sit down with a person and say, listen, I'm feeling XYZ, or I, understood XYZ, like, that's your opportunity to clarify things and then move on. What you can't do is linger
Yes.
in the discomfort, in the hurt, in the pain, because then the issue will never evolve. There will never be an evolution. I'm a fan of it. That's one of the things that has helped my marriage is the fact that we can now, because before we couldn't have those difficult conversations where we'd sit down and be like, dude, can you please
Like, I need you to do this in order for
pick
us
up,
to move on.
can you please clean up the toothpaste after you, can you please, it's been 7 years, can you just pack it up, right? And, I didn't realize it bothered you, really? Do you not hear me running the sink and scrubbing after you leave? But situations like that, and I that's a silly example, but my point is that you need to be, I think we run from those situations. We run because we don't want to feel the discomfort. And at the end of the day, what I have learned and understood in my 41 years is that is life. That is what makes us human. That's what keeps us going. And we can't take it personally. Like, that person's ish is not mine.
Right.
It's not mine. So don't even pick it up. Drop it like it's hot and keep going. Keep moving forward. Yeah.
Well, and on that point, I think as women in general, we're evolving and we're being less silenced. And so I don't know about you guys, but I felt very powerless and silenced by men in general.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings us to the topic of Taylor Swift, kind of doing this on battle. She's been going through the on battle thing with Scooter Braun and Justin Bieber and all these men that have, and I'm happy she did speak about it, whether we believe her or we don't, because I felt like, wow, she's speaking out. If Taylor Swift is going through this, Taylor Swift, I can only, who am I to victimize myself and say, but I'm always silenced by men. Have you each ever felt that way, and how do we change the game where we don't feel like we're being emotional for expressing our feelings or communicating, or we're being bitchy, or we're being typecasted? Because I feel that's the battle I fight every day to make it in this industry, and that's what's kind of put me behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've actually been known and called out a bitch, obnoxious, difficult, and I find that fascinating because when people actually have a conversation with me, I'm like, what is really, we could not have this exchange.
Right.
What I am is extremely opinionated. I will express myself, and one of the reasons why I'm so vocal is I personally am a survivor of sexual assault. And when I grew up silenced and keeping my mouth shut and not saying a word and not speaking up. And when I had my epiphany at the age of 13, 14 years old, I had an epiphany, meaning I remembered what had happened to me because I was in a similar situation again, and I was, it kind of brought up, I never knew and understood how trauma can actually, there's parts of your brain that shuts down so that because what it does, it's intended to protect you, right? And all of that affected, my psychological, emotional development, and it was, through self-destructive behavior and hypersexuality in college. I went through all of that. But then when I had a coming to Jesus moment in my 20s again, where I was like, wait a second, like this is not what my life is supposed to be. This is not, I can speak out and have an opinion and voice what I'm feeling and be heard. And if a guy doesn't want to pick it up, then I move on. You know what I mean? Like I need to love myself more than that. So to your point, we need to be braver. We need to be more courageous, and we need to know that what we say and what we think, whether another person likes it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still our opinion. I have small children, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is, especially my little guy, he'll say, well, that's my opinion. And he'll like give me the shoulder and walk away. And I feel so proud because at the end of the day, that's what you want for your, not just your children, but that's what you want for yourself. To be able to have an opinion, express it, and be heard.
Yeah, and not be bullied.
And
or
not
like,
be dismissed by it.
Right.
And if you are being dismissed by it, check the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
I was just gonna say that, like, for me, like, I feel like surrounding myself around you women, and just lately you've encouraged me, you've all encouraged me to be myself, is what mentally has helped me to be healthier. Because all these other people I've been around, women or men, wanted to silence me, so I realized I had to change my environment. I had to change the people, women or men, who I was around, who I was conversing with and communicating with.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-way street in life, you know. Yes, there's hierarchy still, and we have to fight that, but at the same time, I believe in equality so badly that we should all, no matter where we are, no matter what
100%,
race, economic background, social background, famous, not famous, we should all treat each other, you know, the right way. And that's why it's like, even bringing it back to Housewives, I feel like you've probably went through all these situations where you felt like, well, how can I have this, how can I be equal to everyone, right? I don't know if like you've had that or.
Well, my career, for instance, I used to be a stockbroker. Most people don't know that. So I was the only woman in the bullpen. Talk about sexually harassed and everything else. I lost my job because the person that was operations director for the firm kept on sexually harassing me, and I kept saying no, and he just wrote me up that I was insubordinate because I wouldn't have sex with him. I mean, that's what happened to me, and that's why I left that industry. And then when you try to get another job, if you have on your U4 insubordination, they are not going to hire you. And that was in the 1990s. They're not going to hire a woman when they think, oh, well, she's already had a problem at a firm because she's sexually harassed, because it may happen here, and we're not going to take that chance.
See, but why is that have to, see, that's
The
where
same
we
thing
need to
in
change the
politics.
conversation.
I mean, in politics, it was constant. I would be on the Hill meeting with congressmen and senators, and they'd be like, oh, honey, we don't care what you're saying. That your pretty little eyelashes, your pretty little eyelashes, and we'll go to that legislation. You are so cute.
Oh, how did you?
And I would have go home with people that you all know their names, notes in my bag of, you know, here's my phone number, call me. They're all married, of course, and just crossing the line. So like, it was so disgusting. And at the time, I wanted to maybe have a career in politics. Not interested. Not interested at all. Because I noticed how deals were made. And then if you were a woman that was somewhat attractive, then they automatically went, because of the egos and the charisma that takes you to get to that position, whether you're a president, vice president, congressman, senator. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person to get there anyway. But then they feel like they don't have to play by the rules everybody else has to play by. And they just violate your sense of worth and value and those boundaries. And it was heartbreaking for me, because I felt like no matter how smart I was or how much I knew my issue, they weren't really listening to me. They were just looking at me as a sexual object. And same thing with when I was working in the securities industry. So that was unfortunate. I don't think, to be honest, that's changed a lot to those in certain professions. I just don't think it has. I mean, there are women that have broken through the ceiling. It's just, and also the same thing with salaries. It's
Well, in entertainment too, I feel like I've been in top 40 radio and stuff, and I always felt like, because I was such a hard worker, and I was never the girl, it was always like, you're too overweight, you have a big nose, you're not perfectly pretty.
You're so
beautiful. I know. I mean, not in an ego way, like I had to like come to terms, but it was always like, you gotta do the night shift because you're just not there yet. I always think to myself, but I don't get it. These younger girls are coming in for 6 months. I'm putting in 3 years, blood, sweat, and tears, because I'm a worker. You know, my mom's Colombian. She slapped me to make sure that I was, not me metaphorically, like you gotta work. You can't base it on your looks and your intelligence. And I never understood why. And I said, am I crazy? Do other women go through this where I constantly had to fight men to believe in me that I was, you know, maybe I'm not the typical universal pretty face, but give me a chance to bring the news to the table or bring the entertainment to the table. Have you ever felt that way before, any of you? Like where you're like fighting for dear life just to make your dreams come true? Like,
well, in my former life, I used to be a teacher.
oh wow.
And language arts teacher, educator, and it was extremely difficult. I've always been a very curvy girl, and at that time, I worked out profusely. So I had a banging body. I'm not gonna knock it. I used to teach spinning, and and we had uniforms because I taught at a private school, and I remember having to have like this really uncomfortable conversation with my supervisors, where your uniform has to be this length, and the jacket has to hit so that your body, because your body, and the issue became my body, and I remember just sitting there saying like, but what would you like me to do? Like this is it. Like
this is who I am.
This is what it is. This is, I can't go take my head off and put it on another body. And I think that's because I pushed back then. I think that's what's made me still so confident in myself. Like I have, after having babies, I have a couple of pounds that who doesn't have that there's no, but my point is I remember having to have and it's uncomfortable, and it's just because you're literally asking me to change my physicality that. Unless I were to go into a surgery room, there's no other way for me to do that. You're discouraging me and I'm like, can we keep the focus on the teaching? I'm not a good teacher. Talk to me about that as opposed to how I look to the parents. It's disturbing,
I agree.
So, and in my case, I think also it was a cultural thing, and I think it still happens today because I see some of my kids go to public school now where we live, but I'll look at some of the teachers, and I think that it traumatized me to it because I'll look at a teacher and I'm like, is she really teaching?
Right.
Is she,
or is she trying that with her beautiful work?
teaching? But it's so what I say to myself is I can't be that judgmental either because obviously if they didn't have the credentials and the capability of teaching what they're teaching, they wouldn't be teaching the class. My point is, I think that again, it comes back to us.
Yeah.
If we're uncomfortable in a situation, then we need to create the situation that we aspire to be in. It's one of the things that I love about entrepreneurialism is that if it doesn't exist and it's not what you want, then you have the ability to create it, right? So it's one of the reasons why I started my company. It's why when I took over Bella, I reformed. There was not a lot of reforming to do in the sense we've always highlighted the best of people. We're not a gossip outlet, which is one of the things that I've always loved about this publication. But what I've encouraged everyone more of, and we talked about it earlier, was just be yourself, speak up, bring your 2 cents to the conversation because I don't have to like it, but somebody else could, So it's why we're having this podcast. It's because there's I'm a huge fan of diversity and inclusion, and there's so much to be learned from other cultures and other people. So bring it. It just enriches who we are.
Do you feel, Jen? Do you feel like you should leave a job if you feel discriminated against sexually, racially, and let's say you love radio and you're at the place, or you love TV and you're at the station and you're like, this is my dream job and I don't think I'm going to get something else, but you're unhappy and you feel like you're being discriminated against. Do you think you should leave a job based on just that? Is that a big risk?
There's so many directions.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I have 5 minutes that I want to talk
And
about.
I'm going to add to this question because you are a pageant queen.
Right.
Let's touch on that. And I think that the perception that people have of people who are putting their faces and their bodies out there as a career, they have this conception that this person must not have anything up here. And I happen to know that you're very smart.
Very, and a hard worker.
Extremely.
So I'm going to go back to the abuse topic because I have something I want to add to that. But this too, yes. And it's almost like in reverse. Starting out modeling and then getting into pageants and things like that, you kind of get this perception that, oh, well, she's a pageant girl, she must be stupid. Or, oh, she's a model and she just likes to take her clothes off. And you get all these awful, I was doing things that I love doing. And when I had my title, I was doing charity work and I was giving back and I was mentoring children. And people don't see that necessarily. And has it been amazing for me? Yes. I mean, I met the Bella team. I've worked, with other publications and networks and gotten on TV, and it's been amazing. And I've met those people through, my title and being a former Miss New York and having that on my resume. But it's not just, I mean, these women that I've competed against and other titles, I mean, they're doctors and they're lawyers and they start their own nonprofits and they're doing amazing things. And yes, they are technically using their beauty to get on that stage and to showcase their talents and all of these amazing accomplishments. And I think on another side note, the pageant industry is changing so much. I mean, now, you're literally seeing women in wheelchairs up on stage competing.
Yeah.
And so it is becoming more inclusive. And it's not just, and they used to always tell us, it's not just beauty on the outside, or you have to be a size 0, you have to look a certain way. It's honestly how you carry yourself on that stage.
Yeah.
And it's honestly how you interview. I mean, I used to get more terrified going on stage, competing in a bikini, than I would going into an interview room. Like, put me in an interview room all day. I love talking. I'll talk to everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not just this, oh, well, she looked good in a bikini and that's why she won. You know what I mean? And we get that stereotype a lot, and there's so much
But
more.
I have to say, to get to a place where you're that confident in yourself,
Right.
girl, like,
Kudos.
give me some of that. Because it takes women a very, very long time. I think it took me having children and literally being so vulnerable in that place where literally I had 15 people in the room and everybody was just looking at me in all types of ways that I completely lost. Like, I'm shameless now when it comes, like, I have no reservation. Like, when it comes to that, and I used to be like, oh my God, look at this. But to be that confident in your skin, I think that that's something extremely proud, something really important to be proud of, just because it takes us all. I mean, we've all been victim of that negative self-talk. Oh my God, I'm too ugly, I'm too fat, I'm too tall, I'm not tall enough, I'm not this enough. I wish my skin was, more, whatever the case may be. But I mean, to be that confident,
Don't get me wrong, I still struggle with it. Like,
Oh
all those
my
things,
God.
And that's
anyone
that you're
in my
being
life.
honest about it. Like, everyone will see you and be like, oh
No.
my God, she has a perfect life. Same with you, D'Andra. It's like, all four of you, if I was on the outside, I would think, these women are on top of the world. They have nothing wrong. Yeah, they have it together.
Yeah.
And to even say this, it helps the audience. It helps people like me. Like, I remember I felt typecasted when I was on Princesses, and I felt like everybody didn't know that I was a producer, and I produced for Omari, or Anderson Cooper, all these things. They made me feel like I was just this princess, and they judged me, and I gained a lot of weight after that. And I felt very depressed, and I felt very scared to talk about it, because I felt like I was going to be silenced, like I was never going to have a chance in the industry if I didn't play along or go along with all these, rules or whatever. And then I had to get to the point where I was like, you know what? My parents might not be happy with my weight or where I am in my life. Networks or the industry might not, my friends might not, but I have to be okay, because this is who I am. And physically, sometimes it's a medical thing, which we'll get into, where you can't even help yourself.
Yeah.
Losing the weight, things are changing as you get into your 30s. So I have to really evolve and be okay with, you might not like me, but this is who I am. This is what God gave me, and I have to be confident.
Yeah.
But it also helps when you guys share stories, because it makes me realize, like, we shouldn't judge each other. We're all going through shit in life.
Well, and I think too, like, same thing, like, you can ask anyone in my life, they know I'm like the hardest person on myself. I still struggle every day with, oh my God, you've gained 5 pounds, like, you need to get it together. Like, I'm very hard on myself, but I'm also very, like, you can ask my grandmother. I'm
eat
like,
the cookie,
yeah,
Jennifer,
I'm
eat
like,
the cookie.
no makeup, hair in a bun, sweats, like, this is makeup, this is hair extensions, like, and I tell everybody, like, I have no shame in my game, like, this is what I love it, this is fun to me, but like, and especially, like, if I meet girls and they're like, oh my God, like, you're a princess and you have a crown and you do this, and I'm like, girl, no, like,
It's not that
this
glamorous.
is not me, and this is not me every day, but you could do it too, and so it's hard, like you were saying even about social media, it's that balance where, you want to be on top of your game, you're a public figure, you're, in the industry, you're in the public eye, whatever it is, but then you also want to make sure to remind people that, like, this is not me all the time, and I struggled to get here, and this took a lot of work, and it's like hard finding that balance between, you know what I mean, and like,
even like when I remember, and we'll get to that, also like Housewives too, I feel like you're on this TV show, you're like supposed to be this role model, and everyone thinks it's such a glamorous life.
Yeah.
Everyone should know that reality TV, scripted, Bella TV sets, they're not as glamorous as it seems. It's hard work, it's sleepless hours, and I remember I said to Vanessa, I said, I want to post this like funny thing on my Instagram, but I know that I'm starting to co-host with Bella Team, and I don't want to cross the boundary. And she was like, girl, do you.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought you. And that's why there's nothing to be embarrassed of. And it made me feel so, it just made me inspired to be more myself and tell the truth as opposed to not. So thank you. But it's true. Like I felt like you were one of the first women that let me in the industry do that. I'm going to be honest, a lot of women that were bosses of mine or I worked with or men, they were like, who's going to take you seriously? Why would I hire you in a radio show? Why would I hire you to be a host for a TV show when you're acting like a lunatic? But, you know, when you're like just, not a lunatic, but like you're being funny or you're being your authentic
When
self.
you're being yourself, like,
So it's like, you know, that's where I feel like people should know it's not as glamorous as it seems. So don't hate on everyone when it's like, it's really hard work and everyone's like, oh, I should be famous, I should be a house. I love when people are like, I should be a housewife, I could do it better than them. What do you say to those people when they think it's so easy to
It's so
be a
funny
housewife?
because they're casting right now for season 5 of Real Housewives of Dallas. And I
do I have to move to Dallas? Is
I
that
want
what
to
I
Dallas.
have
Come on, you're opinionated. I will take you. I will fight for you.
Oh my God.
Anyways, I put that out. I said it on my podcast, and then people started sending me messages on Facebook and Instagram thing. And then, well, I don't have an Instagram account, but I said, girl, first of all, they have to look at you on social media
Of
before
course.
you don't
Of
even
course.
I created a Facebook account and there's nothing on there. You
Yeah.
know, like I can't even see what the person looks like. I don't know anything about their life. They want to see what your life is like. You have a fabulous life. You have a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a lot going on when they
Yeah.
do that. I mean, you have to check a lot of boxes. That's
Yeah.
what people don't understand. It's not just like, okay, anybody can be on reality TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Because especially with a franchise, like a Housewives show, they have to check this box, this
It
box,
has to
this
make
box.
sense. It has to make money. And
Yeah, it has to work.
Yeah.
So, but I'm getting so many interesting people
Sure.
that want to be on the show. And I'm like, here's the casting director. Here you go. Here's another fun one. You'll have a good day today. You know?
Like, they're so quick to judge. Like I can do
Yeah.
this. Like you know, like I remember when my show came on, they're like, why would they pick these girls? We could have done a better job. But then when they are set for the challenge,
Yeah.
and the producer's like, let's see.
That's
It's
one of
hard.
the things that is one of my biggest pet peeves, and I think I actually posted about this yesterday on my Facebook page. I said serendipity is when opportunity meets preparation, and it takes 10,000 hours to become an overnight success. And I don't know who said it. I just know that in that moment I was feeling that just because there are so many people who want the opportunity, and then the opportunity is given to them, and it's like crickets. And you're like, but didn't you want this? Isn't that what you've been talking about? And my thing is, and I learned this very early on when I started my own business, was you don't know when the opportunity is going to come, so you better be ready.
Yes.
So you better be ready.
You also don't know when you're going to lose it. And
Yes.
that's
100%.
that's-
But
Yeah,
when
I
you do,
appreciate it.
but you don't know that whatever that is, you don't know when it's going to come. You don't know who's going to connect you. You don't know who you're going to meet. And it's such a challenge, like I said before, you know, to be fully on all the time and do this. And I think that that has a charm in itself when you're able to juggle all of that together and just kind of show up as your authentic self here, there, and everywhere. And people can say, no, like, she's legit. This person really is the real deal. Because it's so disheartening. We've all had it happen when we've been at shoots, when we've met this person and we're like, what is going on? Like, and we're literally like, can we go home now? Like, it's just, and I'm like, I'm gonna go home and take a nap and like just curl up in a ball because, my God, what an atrocious person. Like, what an atrocious human being. And it's so disheartening and discouraging. And to my point, you want it, you cannot have an Instagram account. Like, you cannot.
I've been waiting 50 years. We're all 47 years to
Can you believe
Housewives.
40?
I
It's like she's
was
25.
a stage actress. I went through the 1990s where I was too overweight to be an actress because I wasn't falling over, emaciated, eating a cracker.
Yeah.
I was curvy. I was a size 6. And God forbid you're a size 6 on TV. You know, it was that way. Every was 5 more pounds. I ended up in the hospital from not eating for weeks because I was trying to get to that ideal of what I should have looked like.
Yeah.
And being here now, I'm so grateful, but I feel like there's a lot of people that aren't as grateful because I wanted it for so long.
Yeah.
And so anytime somebody asks me for a photo, if I have a hat on, if I have no makeup on, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because just the fact that I have a person that wants a photo with me because
Yeah.
they enjoy
God.
watching me,
Yeah.
I just, every day I wake up and say, God, thank you so much for this experience.
but
Thank you
met
for what
you-
it's doing for me with the podcast and meeting other ladies like you and everything that's happening because of it. But I know that if it goes away tomorrow, I was always grateful for that opportunity.
100%.
And I see a lot of people get it, and you have to keep yourself uncomfortable to be comfortable. You know what I'm saying by that? Like, don't ever expect or think or just well, I'm a celebrity
Or-
now, so
and
everybody,
right,
you know.
it's called entitlement.
So I'm always
It's because
uncomfortable
you're
and I'm always
entitled, yeah.
anxious because I want to hold on and I want to keep it. I want to do more things with my life, but being grateful about where I am. And you have no idea how much I talk to my husband and my mom. So I'm so happy, you know, that I'm here and I love the fans that have built my brand, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, that they built my brand to where it is today. So it's something that I think if you get to the point where you get that dream, don't
course.
ever take it
Take it
for
for
granted.
granted.
Ever.
Don't
Don't
take
take
it
it
for
for
granted.
I cried.
This is where you feel safe to cry. By the way, how everyone's like, don't cry, don't be emotional.
I'm such a crier, and
It's
being
grateful.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know, because I got an opportunity taken away from me and I wasn't grateful at the time, and I wish I was grateful. I wish, and it was hard to get back on track and like make people believe in you again. And so I think it's really important to just be grateful in
And
general.
I mean, to that end, I do something weird. Every year after I finish a season of Real Housewives, I write all the executives at Broadway, thank you for allowing me to be on this franchise one more year.
Yeah.
If I never come back, whatever, I never say that, but I said, this is my experience. I had, you know, I enjoyed working with this person and people that I highlight. So we have different producers a lot of times. So I like to highlight the producers that were good. You know, you never get, the producers and crew never get thanked enough.
Yeah.
So I say, I loved working with this producer, this camera guy was great, you know, what you did for us this year, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I always say that because they need to know, they need to be thanked as
100%,
well.
yeah, and that's great. Well, that just shows another dimension of
Even if it was hard on me, I still look at the glass half full and not glass half empty, because yes, it was a hard year, but there's so many opportunities arising from that experience that I can rise above that.
100%.
And Phoenix rising from the ashes, which is kind of what I am doing this year on the show. It's you know, you just make the most of every opportunity and be grateful for it.
What do you all think about, and also from a publishing standpoint, what do you guys think about being typecasted in this industry and how to get out of that? So like, you're a reality star and people don't want to let you transition into a TV host or a radio host or an actor. What do you do to get out of that? So like, and how do you, I guess from your standpoint, how do you believe in that? Like, have you worked with artists that you can transition with, or you feel like, oh, they're important, I'll put them in a magazine, or?
Truthfully, I feel that you can do whatever you set your mind to do. That's just me. And you just have to figure out a way on how to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you just have to look around you and see what your resources are, and if it's not in where you are at that moment, then maybe that's just not the place that you need to be. Maybe you need to be somewhere else to make it happen.
And that's okay.
So, yeah.
To like move
100%.
on.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that to add to that
hard.
point is, you know, there's just all these like buzzy words in marketing that people want to use to pigeonhole you, right?
Yeah.
Buzzy words, I like that.
Well, yeah, because it's like what's in trend right now, right? Like I've heard multi-interested entrepreneur, like mamapreneur, which makes me want to
Mamapreneur,
like.
that's
I've never. I mean, I'm a mom and I'm proud to be a mom.
And
I've
you're not
never
too
been a fan of the whole like mommy persona. Like
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
not something
You
that
didn't
I
invent being a
ever
mom.
wanted. Well, I never wanted
You've
to
never
be.
made excuses though, like, hey, I'm a mom and I have kids, so that's why I can't do that.
But what I have said, because of my kids, I can't do this. Or I'm coming with my kids because this is what I need to do for my family
You're
right
honest.
now.
Right.
I was on a trip last week. My kids had no school, and it was a work trip. And the opportunity came, and I'm like, cool, I can make it, but here's the caveat. I need to bring my kids along.
Yeah.
Because they have no school. To set up, to produce what that looks like for me being away for 2 days in my house is so much more work than me taking them along with me, that I wanted them to experience another state, which we got to do. I wanted them to experience what mommy does for a living, because it's important for them to see what I do. I mean, my kids want me to be on the cover, which is like, okay, it's not that serious. But my point is that they value the work that is being put into whatever it is that I'm creating, because they get to see it. They see been able to see what has been built from those late nights, those very early mornings, I promise you, I'll take you for ice cream this weekend, not today, but this weekend we will go. Because I've made it a point to not to take myself out of opportunities because of my children. Like, I think that that's a disservice that we do to ourselves and we do to other women when we're dishonest with where we are in our life. Like, I can't erase the fact that I have 2 children. I can't. It's just not gonna happen.
You know what? I think it's important to bring bring the kids on the road, and that's important to say, like, you can have it all, you can be in this entertainment industry, because I didn't know
You
if I
just
wanted
can't
to
have it all at once.
That's true, right?
You
Like,
just can't have it all at the same time. And I think that that's what we've been fed for
Yeah.
you can have
Have
it
it
all.
all at once.
You can, but not at once.
that's
You
smart.
need to, because when you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to 10 other things. And you have, like, that, when I read that in a blog post somewhere, and when I read that, it like literally registered in my head, because sometimes we need like third-party validation for things to actually click. And I said, oh my God, because I was a yes person, I said yes to everything. And then I found myself drowning in work, in things that, and commitments that I had to then, own up and be responsible for, and then, fighting with my husband, fighting with my children, missing activities, doing whatever that looked like, and also being in a very, very bad state of health, because I wasn't sleeping enough, I wasn't resting, and I wasn't eating the things that I was supposed to, always on the run, coffee in my stomach, power bar, and other, like, that's no way to live, and I'm sure that we've been all guilty of that.
Me too.
Oh yeah, Taco Bell, like.
No, but to my point is, I think that the more we allow ourselves to just be real,
Yeah.
we're setting the precedent for other women to say, you know what, but she did it, so I can too. And we made it work. We had a fun weekend.
Well, I think
Wait,
it's
with the
also
kids.
important. I think it's important to bring the kids, because I do think they appreciate. See, I didn't appreciate it as much because I didn't know what my mom was doing when she was working with my dad. It was just like pushing. She comes from old school, so she only knew how to say, "I love you, but I gotta work."
Yeah.
If I had understood, like you had explained, like what you do with your kids,
Yeah.
they can appreciate. Mommy has to do this to pay the bills. She
Yeah.
has to do this to get me ice cream. She has. So there's this appreciation that I wish. Like I almost feel bad because I put my mom through such hell because I wanted her to be this stage mom
Present,
and
yeah.
present. I wanted her to be
Yeah.
my Kris Jenner,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand that she was trying to hustle just to give me a bill.
100%.
And I think
What's
too, like
important.
to your point, my mom was a single mom, like worked multiple jobs, supported 3 kids, like she's
Wow.
superwoman. I don't know how the hell she did it. I could never do it. So like now for me, I take that like I have to work harder and I have to achieve more and I have to keep pushing myself because I need to live up to that standard.
Standard, yeah.
You know what I mean? I saw how hard she worked and didn't sleep and struggled. And I'm
My
like,
mother is 65
Wow.
and just launched a franchise of restaurants, which sometimes I'll sit there and I'm like, who are you?
That's amazing.
Like, what are you made of? Because I'm tired
Yeah.
just watching you. Like, I'm tired just watching you. But that's been my example also. Like, my mom hustled. That's all I can remember is my mom working. And when she managed a hotel back home in the Dominican Republic, she took us with us. So I got to see her in action. And that was like the biggest gift. That's the biggest gift that you can give your children, is to let them see you working so that they can appreciate and what you do. And that when you do say, Mommy's gonna be home late tonight, they're okay with it because they know what you're undergoing. So
Or like
yeah.
some of us wanted, like what D'Andra mentioned, like with Mama D, like when you were 18, you took the skincare line to the next level. It's almost like you'll either want to be not better than them, but you want to work twice as hard so you can take care of them and not have that struggle that you saw.
Yeah.
Or you want to be just like them if they were like an example that set forth. Like how did you?
My mother always worked, so
Yeah.
she worked. I worked since I was 14. She worked since she was 12.
Wow.
And she had 2 very successful companies. The first one, she had cancer after. She was a manufacturer's rep, but she was on the cover of Women's Wear Daily. She was very successful in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And couture lines is what she repped. And then she had cancer in 1987 when I was 18 years old. And she basically shut down that part of her life, her complete business, and then wanted to find out why she was ill, why she became sick. Because she never was sick a day in her life. She was a model. She was tall, beautiful, skinny all the time, could eat, whatever she wanted.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she has breast cancer. And we were talking this morning, Chanel, that breast cancer was the C word. You didn't talk breast cancer back then. Nobody talked breast cancer because it was something was wrong with you if you had breast cancer, and then you were ugly because you were a woman and you lost one of your breasts and you had a mastectomy. And so she turned that, she made lemonade out of lemons. She decided, she worked for a few different nutrition companies, went to naturopaths all over the world, she did a lot of cell therapy in Germany, she went to Mexico, had all the allopathic plus the complementary and integral, different therapies when she became ill. My dad took us to the Macrobiotics Center in Boston, in Massachusetts, or someplace, maybe it was Vermont, I can't remember. It was a very weird place. But so we went to all these places to
Questionable.
find out, why, she became ill. And then she took that knowledge and started her own company, Ultimate Living, and then the skincare came after that. But she, that was the next work when she married my father. So when she started the nutrition company, I always remember, she was 56 years old. So, and I'm thinking I'm 50 years old, and I'm kind of just now, my company's starting to take off.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so old. Well, no, Mom started at 56. So, and she made it into a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, we were doing $10 million a year after she was doing, and that was her hobby, fun. She didn't need the money. She just loved it.
I actually read in a book that your most productive years are between the ages of 40 and 60. So, girl, you
I'm
have
right there.
Makes me feel better. 'Cause I'm like,
You
I'm getting
have
old.
time. So
Me
actually,
too.
I was like,
35
okay,
now.
I'm feeling better about myself because I just turned 41. So it's your most productive years to produce are between 40 and 60. So we're good.
Did you ever resent, I know this sounds hard because obviously she was going through a hard time. Did you ever resent your mom for being so young and having to take on so much?
No, I never resent. I mean, whenever I was little, so before she married my stepfather, she was a dental hygienist, and that was or she worked in a dental office. And then that was after the modeling and everything. And then she married him, and she didn't work for a while because I was growing up. So she went to cooking school and literally made gourmet meals every night. This is my problem, okay? So
This
we
is why
go
we're
home,
foodies.
she would go to the
We have
cooking
moms
school,
who
and it'd be 7-course meal, a gourmet meal every night.
Yeah.
Of course, when
And
I
I
was
can't
chunky.
cook for shit.
And yeah, so she did that, and then she finally, when I became a teenager, 12, 13, and just, belligerent that way,
Yeah.
then she decided, okay, I'm gonna go back to work, and that's when she became a manufacturer's rep and went back in the fashion industry because she had been a model and loved it so much, and then had the successful career, and I'll finish up by telling you this. She had been there for a year, and my father, on Saturdays, they kind of do their thing, they did their thing together when he was alive. So she said, put on your jeans, we're gonna go do something fun. He said, what are we doing? She says, I'm gonna go buy a Rolls Royce. He's like, what are you gonna pay with it for? She's a check. So he didn't even know how much money she had made. And she walked into the dealership talking about discrimination against women. They would not talk to her, would not look at her, nothing. And she finally said, would somebody please help me? And then, what do you want? And they went to talk to my father. And she said, well, I want to buy that car. And my dad, she said, you stand back there. Because my mother's very, very strong-willed. And so they said, what do you think you're going to pay? How are you going to pay for it? And she said, with a check, will that do?
Yeah.
And the guy almost fell on the floor. She got the car. She didn't want to buy the car at that point. She was so mad. But she got the car and left. But that's how, women are treated at times. How do you afford this? Why are we going to deal with you? And I mean, people even discriminate against you if you're dressed the wrong way. You could be the most wealthy person in the world, have your sweatpants on in a shop, and no one would talk to you. Which is so stupid because I worked in retail forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I would talk to anybody. I didn't care. You never knew who was going to walk through the door, a billionaire or a pauper. You never know.
But I always say it's all about personality. Because I could really look like a disheveled person, but you never know. You don't know if I come from a wealthy family or not, or
maybe I'm having a bad day. I want to spend a lot of money to make myself feel better.
Or maybe I just don't want to wear makeup, which we'll get into now. We have so much more to talk about. Thank God for the Real Talk of Bella podcast, because we're going to talk next time about fashion trends, and we're going to talk about tips on wellness and tips on how to just be the badass woman we all deserve to be.
Bella
Where can we follow everyone? Where can we follow you, D'Andra?
D'Andra Simmons on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Cheryl Divine on Instagram.
Chanel Omari.
At Miss NYUS 2016.
At Vanessa Coppas, and of course, Bella Mac.
Till next time.
Till next time.